You ever notice how the wrong kind of quiet just crawls up your back and sticks there? That's what hit me our first week in Maple Creek. Back in Kandahar, that kind of hush meant trouble mortars coming or worse. Here, it was just sprinklers clicking on, no sirens, no dogs, just a little too perfect, like someone hit pause on the world. That was my welcome to so-called paradise. I came here chasing peace, thinking maybe I could learn to breathe easy, not jump at shadows. Should have known better. The most dangerous moments are always the ones that look harmless on the outside. I was 52 that summer, finally packing up the old ranch house in Texas with my wife Claire, my anchor, my storm. 20 years in Delta Force left me with scars you can't see on an x-ray. Claire spent most of that time waiting on phone calls that always came too late or never came at all. She was a reporter once, a real bulldog for the truth. But after decades watching the world go sideways, all she wanted was a garden and some peace and a porch swing. She found Maple Creek on one of those glossy best places to retire list white houses, fresh paint ducks floating on a man-made pond, the kind of place you're supposed to want to grow old in. But the first morning, I stood at the window with my coffee, listening to sprinklers on roses. I thought, this is what civilians call peace. Felt more like holding my breath. Claire said we'd earned it. No sandstorms, no late-night briefings. She unpacked her grandma's china like she was staking a flag. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But it's tough to teach an old dog to mow a lawn without scanning the tree line. Neighbors introduced themselves in that stiff, polite way people do at church potlucks. Margie from across the street brought banana bread and a printed HOA rule book. I thanked her, but flipping through all those lines about mailbox color and grass length, I thought these folks got rules for everything but common sense. I started learning the rhythm sprinklers at dawn, joggers at 7, school bus at 8. What I couldn't get used to was the way the neighborhood fell quiet right before sunset, like even the crickets knew to keep their heads down. The only thing that made it feel like home was the flag Claire sewed for me from my old uniform. Olive drab patches, the ranger crest, a thin black thread stitched with a date June 17, 2009. The day Eli Price, 23, Nebraska, stepped into the line of fire meant for me. That flag wasn't from any hardware store. It was the closest thing I had to a gravestone for a friend who never made it home. Claire stitched it by hand late at night under a single bulb. She said, "You ought to have something here that reminds you why you came back." So piece by piece, that sand-stained, dust-smelling uniform became our porch flag. I hung it from a custom wood mount, so the last light of day would catch those stitches. Neighbors would tip their hats. A Marine saluted it. Nobody asked questions. The plaque beneath with Eli's name and the date was my ritual. Last thing I'd touch before heading inside. The rules here: flag sizes, setback lines. I'd skimmed the book, but it never crossed my mind anyone would see a homemade flag and plaque as a problem. In Texas, you flew a flag like that and people brought you a pie, not a citation. Looking back, maybe I was naive to think respect came standard everywhere. But that first week, Claire in her garden, the flag catching the breeze, I almost believed we'd found a quiet corner to rest. Almost. Then came the knock. Sunday morning sunlight sliding through the blinds, Claire's coffee filling the kitchen. Not a polite knock, 2 hard smacks, a pause, a third like a drill sergeant counting cadence. I opened the door. Slow coffee mug in hand. Patience on my face because patience rattles people spoiling for a fight. 3 men, black polos with a red HOA security patch. Their shirts still had the factory fold, the middle one tall and cocky, mirrored sunglasses, too small for his face. That was Brent Coleman, though I didn't know the name yet. "No, good morning." "Just who are you?" "Why are you here?" I told him. "Jack Ryder bought this house Tuesday." "Anything else?" He shifted his weight. "Never trust a man who can't keep his feet still." "You got a problem with your flag?" "Too big. Our regulations limit flag dimensions. You've got 24 hours to take it down." I let my eyes drop to the plaque. "In honor of Corporal Eli Price, 75th Ranger Regiment, June 17, 2009. Brent followed my gaze and gave a humorless little laugh. That sign, too, not in compliance. No homemade memorials cluttering the view. That line hit like a punch to the chest. Claire stood behind me, hand tight on the doorframe. I took a slow sip and said, "That plaque stays." Brent not missing a beat. "Rules are rules. You don't take down both, we handle it." I looked at him the way you look at a wall you already know is cracked. "Try it." The two sidekicks shifted uneasy. Brent cleared his throat, reasserted control. "You've got 24 hours. They left like a bad parade trailing cologne and attitude. Inside Claire's mug hit the counter a little too hard. I've learned to trust that look. She wasn't upset, she was working the problem. By afternoon, she was buried in research laptop, open yellow pad out, digging through court dockets. Brent Coleman, head of security committee, used to be military police discharged for unspecified misconduct. That's rarely good news. She found more his rent-a-cop security outfit had lost its state license last spring in proper use of restraints. "This isn't about the flag," she said. "HOA's muscling folks for some new security fee. Brent's their muscle." We combed the bylaws, found just enough gray area that Brent figured he could push. That night the street felt heavy. Black SUV circling the block, headlights sweeping the porch, the kind of surveillance you don't mistake for curiosity. The next morning the door cam was tilted off center, one bolt half-loosened, footage missing between midnight and 2 a.m. Later Claire found a note, "No envelope, all caps, take the flag down or the next knock won't be polite." She slid it across the table. I dropped it in a sandwich bag. Old habits. "Think it's Brent?" she asked. "He's more the door-pounding type," I said. "Maybe one of his little soldiers. We didn't call the cops, just kept our eyes open." At dusk, I walked the block. Walter Briggs' Vietnam vet cane propped against his porch nodded my way. "Some folks been driving too slow around here," he called. "Figured you noticed." "We're keeping watch," I said. Walter just nodded, whittling cedar, and the message was clear. Some fights you don't have to fight alone. A couple days later, the rain started just after 3. At 5, I watched the security monitor as 3 shadows moved through the drizzle, Brent and his boys, hacksaw and hand gloves ready. I didn't call the police. Sometimes the moment's already over by the time they show up. I just slipped on my jacket, stepped out into the rain. Brent, caught mid-crime, tried to puff up. "We gave you 24 hours. You're early," I said, calm as you please. Things escalated quick. The wiry one raised the saw. I redirected, quick elbow to the sternum, breath knocked out of him. The big guy tried to rush, pivot arm dragged down. He went. Brent reached for pepper spray. I locked his wrist, spun him. Every move, just enough force, nothing extra. Claire called from the door. "Police are on their way." Brent's swagger faltered. The fight drained out of his crew one by one. We all stood there, rain ticking on the porch light, adrenaline fading to relief. By the time the cops showed 2 officers, one young, one old, the neighbors were peeking from behind curtains, phones glowing. "They tried to remove the flag and plaque," I said. I stopped them. "Camera footage is yours." The old sergeant looked up at the flag and the plaque gave a small, slow nod. "That flag stays up," he said quietly. Later at the station, statements were taken. Walter came and cane tapping to back us up. "Quiet streets are the ones you watch closest," he said. "Looks like you watched just fine." The clip spread fast, first the local groups, then a national veterans forum, then reporters started circling. "They want a quote," Claire said. "Let them quote the video," I told her. Truth's there. We went to the emergency HOA board meeting 2 days later, room packed, folding chairs, groaning faces I recognized from every porch and dog walk. I told them what happened, kept it simple. Claire read the actual bylaw. Walter stood and said, "Some things you measure with rulers, some things you measure with what they cost." The vote wasn't close. 2 board members resigned. Security fee vanished. Peace in its own stubborn way returned. I fixed the porch, rehung the flag, tightened the screws on Eli's plaque. Claire hung a black ribbon on the corner. Walter brought chicken and rice, and we ate it on the porch like a Sunday team. The SUV stopped circling. The mailbox went back to Bill's. The quiet felt different, earned, not brittle. The old habits stayed. I built a bench with a hidden compartment for a first aid kit just in case. Sometimes people ask if all this changed me. I don't feel meaner or calmer or more ready for the next fight. I just know clearer what peace really is. It's not about a place with no trouble. It's about keeping the things that matter, flag memory porch home. I touched Eli's plaque one more time, said goodnight, and walked inside where the quiet finally felt like it belonged to us. So let me ask you, what would you stand for if someone tried to take it? Drop your answer down below. And hey, if you've ever tangled with a petty HOA or stood your ground for something you love, I want to hear that story too. Because this world needs more folks who know when to draw the line and when to hold it.